Hi everyone, welcome back to Numinosophy Academy. I'm Lewis. Today I'm going to be thinking about Harold Bloom and his thoughts concerning Mormonism and the founding prophet Joseph Smith. So Harold Bloom was a highly influential, highly celebrated language critic of the 20th century. He wrote loads of books, mostly on literary criticism, but also on religion as well. Harold Bloom's often cited intellectual heroes included Ralph Waldo Emerson, Sigmund Freud, and Walt Whitman. After the style of Ralph Waldo Emerson and William James, Harold Bloom entered into religious criticism, like literary criticism, which is certainly not a criticism of religion, but rather a kind of appreciation of the aesthetic, creative, and spiritual genius and beauty that kind of underlines religious movements. And following this tradition, he wrote in 1992 his book American Religion, which focused on various religious movements which were, unique to America, that had their genesis in America, focusing in particular on Mormonism, the Southern Baptist Convention, the Millerite movement with the likes of the Seventh-day Adventist, and of course the American Pentecostalist movement. And out of all of these, it was certainly Mormonism itself being the most unique, the most un-European, that received the most attention, particularly the ingenious and creative founding figure Joseph Smith, who receives an entire chapter in the book. So he begins in that chapter talking about just how creative and unique Mormonism is. It feels like today, the LDS Church is on a bit of a crusade to be regarded as just any other Protestant denominations. But really, the gap between Protestantism and Mormonism, couldn't be larger. The shift from, say, Christianity out of Judaism, that degree of movement, or the shift from Islam out of Christianity, it's a similar degree of magnitude, the shift from Christianity or Christianity and Judaism out into Mormonism. It's a unique and vibrant religious expression, which is, again, uniquely American. And when Harold Bloom approaches and thinks about Joseph Smith, he's not doing so with an eye to kind of proving or disproving whether the claims that Joseph Smith are true or not. He's not, assessing whether he really is a revelator, receiving messages from God. Rather, he is evaluating his religious imagination, his, unique religious imagination, which is, unparalleled. There had been nothing like that in the Americas up to Joseph Smith, and there's been nothing like that since. He begins then by assessing Joseph Smith's unique, charismatic character. He must have been a figure that was very charming and very appealing. It must have been a great pleasure to have been in Joseph Smith's company. Every word so captivating that you wanted to be with him. You wanted to believe what he said. You wanted to kind of hang on his every word. He was the remarkable storyteller. He invited his audience into the quest, the kind of journey for spiritual meaning, all driven by this unique imagination. You can even understand his charisma as being something like a divine boon. To be in his presence is, it's as if you are in the presence of something sacred. That's why he's able to hold people. He's able to captivate people in this way. It's not even that Joseph Smith's message was more enduring than other, uniquely American religious movements. We have still today the Seventh-day Adventists, the Christian Scientists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Black Muslims, the New Age movement, which are all, uniquely American. But in Joseph Smith, there's a kind of vital, imaginative energy which supersedes any of these other religious movements. Harold Bloom considered himself a kind of Jewish mystic or Jewish Gnostic even. He's very interested in the Kabbalah and that kind of thing. And he speculates in his book whether Joseph Smith would have known any of this, because of course, he wasn't, conventionally educated, but, that's not to say he wasn't ingenious and did receive from his older brother some degree of education. But the similarities between some aspects of Jewish mysticism and what Joseph Smith comes up with and what Brigham Young kind of comes up with is just so surprisingly similar. It's just it's weird. So, for example, like the God Adam theory. Well, the God Adam theory, in its kind of embryo form, is also part of the kind of Jewish mysticism tradition. What is Joseph Smith's Mormonism? It's kind of a Kabbalist and Gnostic Christian revival movement. And one of the things that Joseph Smith's Mormonism does is it resolves the kind of Old Testament, New Testament conflict. So, Christians are always kind of wrestling with the question of what their relationship to the Old Testament should be. Are the commandments in the Old Testament to be followed? And they have to come up with some kind of theological explanation as to why the principles in the Old Testament no longer apply, because Jesus has come and therefore there's a kind of new covenant in play. Well, Joseph Smith nullifies all that. He is kind of reading and integrating into his religious system, both the New and Old Testament alike. And the figure of Enoch is very central to Joseph Smith's Mormonism. Enoch in the Kabbalist tradition is a figure which kind of exists to humanize God, to make God more human. And Mormonism, does exactly that. It understands God in more human terms. I think this kind of gets at the heart as to why Harold Bloom has such an appreciation for Joseph Smith, because Harold Bloom, as I said, is interested in the Kabbalist Jewish tradition and Jewish mysticism, and kind of just out of Joseph Smith's imagination, he happens upon principles that align very closely with that kind of Kabbalist Gnostic Jewish tradition. Joseph Smith's God is not a God like the Orthodox Christian God who is outside of space and time. He's a physical being, and we all kind of literally, even as human beings, share the DNA of God. We are all literally the children of God on one level, and being a flesh-bound being, Joseph Smith's God cannot be in all places at all times, but like us, can only be in one place at one time. And so when, God converses with his prophet Joseph Smith, he is there in the flesh, face to face. It's imminent, it's material, it's concrete. Harold Bloom speculates about, what would have informed Joseph Smith's religious imagination. Something about the kind of magical worldview which infused 19th century rural America, and of course the Freemason tradition. Going through the temple, and the aspects which kind of make up these American movements, such as Mormonism, has something to do with the knowing aspect of it. Like gnosis, you're knowing what the truth is. It's presented to you as facts, as historical fact. The Book of Mormon is presented as historical fact. It's not like, ancient religious systems, or European Christianity, in which you're kind of assenting to kind of nebulous beliefs. No. In American religiosity, you know what the truth is. And secondly, within American religion, there's a kind of set apartness. America is a land unto itself, and therefore it's a space in which something new and unique, very much set apart from what came before in the old world, can be forged there. And the Book of Mormon kind of represents an exercise in myth making. Of course, no anthropologists take the claims that the Book of Mormon make seriously, but it's not about that. It's about creating imaginatively myths that can sustain us. And it's kind of loud and bombastic, created out of whole cloth. These new systems which are so un-European, like the myth-making that surrounded his establishment of polygamy, for example. It's so unlike anything that's come before. It does really require that kind of fresh, imaginative religious approach. Polygamy, celestial marriage, baptism of the dead, visions in the here and now, as if we're kind of back in the time of Acts. And I guess the kind of strange thing is, looking back as an exercise in religious criticism, is just to note that, despite how remarkable Joseph Smith as an individual is, he is almost exclusively admired by, Latter-day Saints only. There's no kind of general appreciation for the religious imaginative power of Joseph Smith, or his, religious contribution in terms of the texts he created, the Book of Mormon. And that's where, Harold Bloom kind of concludes with a final hurrah to the figure of Joseph Smith, a figure that should be considered afresh and respected for his unique religious imagination. As always, if you enjoy this content, please do like this video for the YouTube algorithm, and please do subscribe for future and upcoming videos. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next one.